Hi, my name is Jonathan. I'm your instructor for the second unit of this Introduction to XML course. I'll be taking you through the basics of XML. Remember, you can pause the video if you need a minute to understand what's on screen. Okay, let's get going. You saw the course overview in Unit 1. Here's a quick reminder. You've completed the introduction, and now we're going to do the basics. Then you will complete units on Try It Yourself and Advanced XML. The overall purpose of this unit is to familiarize you with the basics of how XML works. You will see some concrete examples, and by the end of this unit you will understand how a basic XML document is put together. In this unit there are 2 lessons. Once you have completed Lesson 1, you'll be able to explain why XML is important and where it is used. After Lesson 2, you'll understand how to tag elements of an XML document. At the end of this unit, you'll be able to test yourself and find out how much you've learned. I've put a simple assessment for you to complete in the Unit 2 assessments area. Let's get going with Lesson 1. By the end of this lesson, you'll be able to talk about where XML is used and why it's important. XML is used in many aspects of web development, sometimes even behind the scenes in HTML. The most important thing to remember about XML is that it allows us to separate the data, what we mean, in a document from its presentation, how we want it to look. XML uses tagging to label all of the various parts of a document. We'll learn more about tagging in the next lesson. So, separate data and presentation. What does that mean? An XML file is really very simple. It only consists of text along with tags that describe elements of that text, such as titles, headings, and paragraphs. It really contains just the meaning we want to communicate. It does not contain any of the colors or effects you might see presented on a full web page. This comes from another file. This is why we say the data and the presentation are separate. The tagged parts of an XML file interact with a separate style sheet, which tells an application how the tagged data is to be presented or displayed and what colors and backgrounds to use. A common form of style sheet is CSS. You'll learn more about CSS in Unit 4. Now, for instance, if you have a heading tagged as Heading 1, it might appear alongside the separate CSS description you can see in the image on screen. So, because there is a total separation between data and presentation, this same XML data can then be displayed in a variety of different ways. And because the different types of information have been tagged, the data is machine readable. This means it can be read and represented by other applications. So why is XML important? Well, XML is free. This means it is not owned by anyone. XML is a standard, which means it has agreed conventions and terms for describing the information in a document. This all means it is a stable and trustworthy means of exchanging information between different types of hardware, software, and programming languages. Why does this all matter? This matters because it can allow for the safe transfer of data between different applications without the data itself being changed. This allows applications to exchange data between each other without any human involvement. So, because of this, XML is a particularly important form of coding when it comes to databases. Databases function to store data safely and present it carefully. XML is also important when it comes to web feeds. Web feeds can allow people or applications to receive the most recent information from a source that continuously updates. This is most usually seen with news websites, but it is also used when you sign up to track or to receive notifications about a change in some piece of data. For instance, a change in the price of something you are thinking about buying on Amazon or PriceSpy. So, at this stage, you'll be able to talk about XML, how XML code operates and why it is important. To summarize, XML is a way of labeling data in a document which is separate from its presentation. This is important because the data can easily be read, transferred and represented by people and machines. Well done! You've completed the first lesson. Now we're going to begin lesson 2. I'll just remind you quickly of the overall objective for this unit. The objective is to give you an understanding of how tagging works in a simple XML document. You will then learn the basics of how to tag information in an XML document. You are well over halfway through this unit. Remember, you can pause or rewind the video at any time. Okay, let's get going. XML files usually start with a declaration. This will be the very first piece of code in the file and includes information on the version of XML, the type of encoding used, and whether the file is standalone. You can see an example of this on screen between the angular brackets. Now, if you are using a separate style sheet such as CSS, which will describe how your data is to be displayed in terms of colors, you give the details for this in the next line. You must give the file name of this linked file and make sure it is saved in the same folder as your XML file. Again, you can see an example of this on screen between the angular brackets. Now we'll have a closer look at some examples of how you tag. Let's work on some code for a website called 3 Random Facts About Me. All tagged elements are placed between the signs that you see on screen. These are called angular brackets. Let's say you call your file My Webpage. Your opening tag will be My Webpage between angular brackets. Please always remember that you need to close all tags for the file to be read properly. So when you are finishing your file, you will close your web page with the tag My Webpage, again between angular brackets, but you'll notice that there's one difference, and that's the inclusion of a / after the first angular bracket. For this simple XML document, we are going to work with the following tags. My Webpage is going to be the name of the file, that is the document you are writing. You open this tag by placing it in the angular brackets. You close it by placing a / after the first angular bracket, then rewrite My Webpage, and then the second angular bracket. We are going to use H1 for heading. This will tag the first heading in your document, and you open and close the tag in the same manner as before. We will use the tag body to describe the body text of the document. This is the main text. Again, as you can see on screen, the tag is opened and closed as with the other examples. Finally, we use P to describe each separate paragraph. In XML, elements can be described as parent and child elements. So, in a file, each child element is displayed one tab inwards from its parent element. Let's say the next piece of information you want to add to your file is the title, and you want to call it 3 Random Facts About Me. We will use the H1 tag for heading. This would be a child element of My Webpage and would appear one tab inwards, as you can see on screen. Now, the next items you might like to add would be the 3 facts about you. Let's give them the tag P for paragraph. You will give each fact this tag. This will ensure they are spaced out. So for instance, fact 1 will appear as you can see on screen. Each of your facts will appear like this, so all the information will appear like the image you can see on your screen now. Notice how with each fact the tag is opened and closed. Writing in this way allows you to give each element of your web page its own tag, and so each tag can have its own style described in a separate document. That's it, we're almost done. Congratulations, you've finished lesson 2. To recap what we've covered, you've learned that every element of an XML document is tagged. You know that this allows each element to be recognizable and transferred between applications. You've learned that if you open a tag, you must close it. Now, let's summarize both lessons that we've just completed on the basics of XML coding. You've been given an introduction on how to code and why XML is used. And you've learned how tagging is used in XML documents. Now, don't forget to go to the assessment section for Unit 2 and see how well you'll do. Good luck!